I am one that says that there is a light at the end of the tunnel for the conservative movement after the government shutdown, but many would say that that's actually a train. The question is that train going to be the establishment running over the Tea Party or the Tea Party running over the establishment? We'll talk about that next on Get Right with Lenny McAllister, starting right
now. Get Right with Lenny McAllister.
Oh, who the are you? I'm the guy who does his job. You must be the other guy.
The way we help bring back America and we build the bridges and bring people together is by making sure we hold everybody accountable in a 360 fashion.
So let me close with this. Yes, there is a change that we can believe in, but it will never come from a politician or a government program.
We cannot find physical sanity here in the land of Lincoln from Carbondale to Elgin that we can collectively continue to tolerate the insanity found on the streets of South Chicago and East Texas.
We got to move away from the American Idol soundbite nature of politics and back to the American statesman of humble servant leadership that we used to see in politics.
It is time to roll out the era of the new, educated, engaged, and energized American citizen.
I go do the jail ministry. I speak to the kids in the streets. So I'm never going to lay down being conservative just as much as I'll never lay down being a proud African American.
I feel like a black republic. Money I got coming in. Can't turn my back on the hood. I got love for them. Can't clean my act good. Too much thugging them. Probably in the back.
And of course, there are a lot of people that would probably ask the question, so what is your job involved in all of this, with this government shutdown aftermath, with this debt ceiling crisis aftermath? We'll talk about that now. It's me, Lenny McAllister. It's you and me together here on Get Right with Lenny McAllister, the Friday edition. Want to say thank you to all of you for joining me once again. You know where to comment. You know where to find me on Twitter. It's very simple. It's LENNYMCALLISTER. It's just my first and last name on Twitter. Lenny McAllister. Of course, on Facebook, very simple. Go to tinyurl.com/LENNYPAGE. It's tinyurl.com/Lenny Page. Always love your feedback. Always love to hear from you. Now, back to what basically we were saying at the beginning of the podcast, and this is where I'm going to stay in pocket today. There is a light at the end of the tunnel for the Republican Party. And I know that people keep saying, number one, Lenny, you're a partisan. Of course you're going to say that. Number two, you're being delusional because you're a partisan, and that's why you're saying that. Listen, I keep bringing people back to this. History's on my side. The two major political parties, over the course of the last 200 plus years, have been going back and forth. I mean, the Democrats, they go back to Jackson pretty much, Jefferson Jackson. We know the Republican Party goes back basically to Lincoln. So even if you want to say 150 years, even if you don't want to include the Jefferson-Jackson aspect of the Democratic Party, you got at least 150 years where each political party has done some enormously stupid things from a political standpoint, from a societal standpoint, from a historical standpoint, stuff that just was morally corrupt, politically stupid, in some instances flat out evil. We won't, I don't want to sit there and start talking about Reconstruction, the Compromise of 1876, the Jim Crow era. Because, that's the epitome of, if you're going to get rid of politics and political parties and everything else, that was a perfect time to dump everything on its head. You had one political party basically sacrificing a portion of the nation that, by the way, they had just fought a war over in order to win an election. And then you have another political party that's willing to engage in urban and domestic terrorism in order to win elections. If there was ever a time to sit there and say that a political party is going to go one way or another and completely be taken out, heck, let's just go to 1877 to the turn of the 20th century. Heck, if you want to say there was a period of time where there was going to be a third political party that was going to genuinely have a lot of power and sway and control, let's go to the Bull Moose Party, where you had a two-term president running on their ticket, Teddy Roosevelt. How'd that turn out? So I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a third party. What I'm saying to you is this. There have been plenty of times over the past at least 150 years. You agree or disagree with me? I love hearing your feedback on Twitter and on Facebook. At least 150 years where you can say this party's going away, that party's going away. I mean, heck, the Republicans and the radical Republicans at that really wanted to punish the South. And that ended up being the Democratic Party in many, many regards after the Civil War was over. So one could say that was an opportunity to wipe the Democrats off the face of the earth. Heck, the Reagan Revolution. Granted, the Democrats had the House of Representatives, had Tip O'Neill there, but you started having a run of 12 straight years of a Republican president. And then from there, what was it, after Bush, you literally had 20 out of the last 28 years, a Republican president. And then you had Republican control all throughout Capitol Hill, both chambers. There was an opportunity to say, the Democrats just don't get it. They don't understand. Just the same, you heard the same rhetoric after the 2008 elections. The Republican Party's going the way of the Whigs. The Republican Party's going the way of the Whigs. They're out of here. Old white men, they're blowing up. They might not even be around in any type of real capacity in time for President Obama's re-election / coronation. Because at the time, remember, all this historic political capital and everything else, there was no way the Republicans could compete and do anything on a national scale. And guess what happened in 2010? Just in time for redistricting because of the census, just in time for President Obama to run for re-election. Here come the Republicans by way of the Tea Party, and I'll grant you that, which gets back to the premise of what I said at the top of the show. Somebody's going to go, I'm starting to think. Now, there are some that say that the party's going to split. You're going to have an actual real Tea Party, and then you're going to have a Republican Party. I don't know about that. I mean, because if that were the case, the Libertarian Party's been around longer than the Tea Party movement has been. You know, one could argue, and I do, that the Tea Party movement has been about as old as Ron Paul's rhetoric has been. He is the grandfather of the Tea Party, and Barack Obama is the godfather of the Tea Party. You can't have the Tea Party movement without both of them at the same time. Ron Paul was talking about the national debt and defaulting and the Federal Reserve for years. And it got some traction. It even got some traction with young conservatives. So he is the grandfather of the movement in many, many regards. Again, if you go to a Tea Party, and those that say, you know, they're racist, they're this or that, I would challenge you, A, to go to a Tea Party, even though they're not as prevalent as they used to be. But those that have gone, they've seen, number one, these are people that actually know their stuff. The people that were at the core of the Tea Party movement. A lot of these folks were Ron Paul people. So they've been studying this stuff for a while now. So they actually got it. They were care less about President Obama. But what really ginned up the real momentum of this movement was the actual godfather of the Tea Party movement. I've always said it was Barack H. Obama, 44th President of the United States. Because between the historic election of 2008, the bailouts that came right before his term, the actions he took within his first 90 days, the partisanship that came out of Washington because they controlled both houses of Congress, and at the time, those first 90 days, they were trying to engineer a supermajority. People forget about this. They did not have a supermajority that was voted into play. They had 58 firm. They didn't know what was coming out of Minnesota, and they had to flip the late Arlen Specter to get to 60 senators. They had to engineer that supermajority, which one could basically argue that they knew they wanted universal health care from the outset, which is why they were trying to engineer the supermajority so that it would be filibuster proof. So, I mean, if you want to go down the conspiracy theory path, there you go. It wasn't a voted upon supermajority. It was an engineered supermajority. And if you don't remember, I will allow you to recollect the fact that the recount in Minnesota went on for a while. It wasn't something that they had determined 2 weeks into November. It took a while to get Al Franken. That's kind of funny just to say Al Franken's a U.S. Senator. Not that he's stupid or anything else, but I mean, people that are frustrated with American politics, the beauty and the of American politics is the fact that you have had, over the last several years, a pro wrestler as a governor, an actor as a governor. You have had a comedian as a senator. Sonny Bono was a mayor. His wife, before he passed away and then got remarried, was a congresswoman. I mean, you have these people, and some of them have some experience, and others they just don't. And it doesn't mean that you need the experience, but it's just, if you look at American politics nowadays, it makes you just throw your hands up in some regards, which goes back to what I was saying previously, which is every time you think that this has gone so far off the rails that there's no possible way for a political party to come back, something happens where they come back. Hey, Schwarzenegger got 2 terms. Ventura wasn't part of the establishment and won in Minnesota. So, back to what I was saying previously, before I went through the gerrymandered and the engineered supermajority in 2008 and everything else. There's always an argument in a conspiracy theory or a thought that a political party is going to go away once and for all. The Republicans after Nixon. You would think that would have been a case, a scenario there where the Republicans would have been gone again. Here's my thing. When it comes to this scenario, if it is on a collision course and there's light at the end of the tunnel, and if some of you are correct and that light at the end of the tunnel is a train like you see on the cartoons, you got to ask yourself the question, is that train the Tea Party movement about to run over the establishment? Is it on the other side? Is it the establishment finally saying to the Tea Party movement, enough's enough? We have dealt with you for the last time. You have cost us 3 straight years of concessions from this president, a president that's presiding over weak job growth, weak economic growth, a failing healthcare reform system that can't even roll itself out, can't even get out of its own way. And we lose elections. We lose Senate races because of Tea Party candidates. We lose districts congressionally that we should win. We lose concessions in negotiations because we go too far. Is it going to be the establishment telling the Tea Party once and for all, get out of our way? Or will the Tea Party double down and gain the momentum? Because if we want to go ahead and recollect, once again, love your feedback on your recollections. The Republican Party is not the party that gained all the momentum in 2009 and 2010. It wasn't the GOP and the RNC that really got this going. Now, granted, people don't give Michael Steele enough credit, and his birthday is on Saturday. Happy birthday to him. People don't give him enough credit. He did organize some things for the RNC to move forward. I was part of that movement. I remember the stuff that they did at the RNC, the training sessions that they did and meeting the people and talking to the people. You had one of the most diverse field of candidates from a color perspective and from a socioeconomic perspective that you've ever seen from the RNC under Michael Steele. You go look. Susanna Martinez, Alan West, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley. There were 30-some-odd black Republican congressional candidates, 2-1, which is more than the 0 that won in 2008 and 2006. So there were some things that did happen from an RNC perspective that the Republicans did well. But that momentum generated initially, and I would dare say from a sustained perspective, from the Tea Party movement. So you have the establishment looking at the Tea Party saying, you've cost us. You may have cost us a presidential election. You did cost us senatorial races. You may have cost us some congressional races because your rhetoric is just too far. You don't recognize political wins. We go in negotiations, you shoot the moon, you miss the moon, so you think that you lost. Meanwhile, you're hitting stars. You don't even realize that you're orbiting the earth, and therefore we plummet to the earth and we crash and burn. Then you have the Tea Party looking at the Republican Party saying, listen, you all were dead in the water. The sharks were circling. Young people didn't even know who you were. And if you weren't old and white, nobody cared about this party. Yeah, you got Michael Steele in there. Yes, you turned some things around, and that's good. But we're the people that brought folks to the rallies, 2010. We kept the people going to the town hall forums all throughout the summer of 2009. We got them voting in 2010. We kept them excited. And if it wasn't for us in our Tea Party Express and getting involved with AFP and getting involved with Freedom Works and all these other things that we did at the local level, we would not have won state assemblies. We would not have redrawn the maps. And we would be in more of a pickle now in the House of Representatives. So you need to go, Republican establishment. I think there's light at the end of the tunnel. I think, and this is me being somebody that believes in reconciliation, that believes in bridge building. I'm sitting here in the city of Bridges. Of course I believe in bridge building. I'm a native of the city of Bridges, but of course I'm a bridge builder, to some of you all's angst. I do believe that the Tea Party element and the Republican establishment can play nice together. There is still more than enough that they agree upon to get this done the right way. And now that we have seen for the third time that the inability to put together methodical wins is detrimental to the conservative movement overall. That fighting amongst the conservative movement, one versus another. I mean, they called each other all kinds of names. I'm sure that people on the progressive side of politics thought this was hilarious. Because you had more than one long-term establishment conservative / Republican just calling out Ted Cruz. And this has been going on for a while. John McCain's been calling out Rand Paul for a second in the Senate. Now he's calling out Ted Cruz. You got other folks doing the same exact thing. This light at the end of the tunnel for the conservative movement, I don't think is a train. I think there's an opportunity to gain momentum because number one. And again, I've said this on television. I was on Al Jazeera English on Thursday night. A little sleepy from that, but it's all good. Appreciate going on there once again, by the way. I also talked about this a little bit on Global Grind, but not too much. Number one, the whole impetus against Obamacare. And again, if you haven't seen the AJE clip, you can go to LennyMcAllister.com. The whole impetus against Obamacare was the fact that it was job-killing legislation. That the focus was not on the economy. That this president could not create the environment where Americans created jobs. And that under his direction, the Democrats were trying to create jobs through government, and that just hasn't worked successfully. And if you look at the numbers still support that argument. People don't like Republicans, generally speaking, because of how they view the government shutdown. People don't like Republicans, generally speaking, because the brand name has just been tarnished over the last several years. But more than that, ladies and gentlemen, people don't like being unemployed. People don't like not having money in their pocket. People don't like having their backs economically constantly up against the wall. And it doesn't matter how much you like this president. Bottom line is he's going to be going away in 2017. So you don't have to worry about trying to vote him out of office. And as you've noticed, all the talk about this impeach stuff finally has gone away. The birther stuff has finally gone away. The jobs haven't come back. The frustration economically hasn't gone away. And these are things that the conservative movement, both Tea Party and Republican establishment, can gravitate towards. The issues with the national debt is still an issue that the Tea Party and the Republican establishment can gravitate towards. And now you do have the glitches from a technological standpoint with Obamacare, which I'm telling you, if the technical side of this is jacked up and you had 3+ years to plan for this, and by the way, you're not going to sit there and tell me that you're going to try to engineer a supermajority without putting some people on the task of getting this in place from a technical standpoint. That doesn't mean they were building the system January 2009, but it does mean that somebody somewhere said we have a shot at this. If we can just get a supermajority, we can put this together. Now, how would people enroll in this? They're going to have to enroll via the internet. It's 21st century. Of course it's going to be the internet. People have been thinking about this at least since the law was passed in 2010, and I would dare say since 2009. So you have roughly 3 to 4 years to plan for this from a technical standpoint. So if it's looking like this from a technical standpoint, and more people are making this argument, what will it look like from a bureaucracy standpoint? That is still an argument that both the Tea Party and the Republican establishment can make. I know there are plenty of people that are in the political center, independents, and folks that are just flat out Democrats or progressives, hard left, that think that this is finally the end of the conservative movement. And I would just caution you from, popping open the champagne. Come on. First of all, it's Friday. It's still during the day Friday. Calm down. Don't drink too early. Still a work day. Know what I'm saying? But more importantly than that, how many times have you seen this play out? Where you get a little bit ahead of yourselves, the liberals shoot a little too far, go a little too far, do a little too much, and anger the center enough to take a chance on a Republican. All I'm asking for from the conservative movement is to proceed with caution, be methodical, peace wins together, and understand that the train that we could ride doesn't have to be that light in the tunnel that runs somebody over. It doesn't have to run over Boehner, even though that's kind of what happened with this crisis. And it doesn't have to run over the Tea Party, even though eventually that's kind of what happened to Ted Cruz. It can be a train and a wave of momentum that the conservative movement can ride. And if they play their cards right, if they talk to more of America, more of the diversity of America, in a better fashion, in a more genuine fashion, in a more effective fashion, even after the government shutdown and even after the debt ceiling crisis, there is light at the end of the tunnel. I know some of you agree with me. I know some of you don't, but I'm trying to lay out how this could play out with the right people involved, the right people running for office, the right strategies, the right policies, and the right messaging. Now, of course, the right hasn't been doing all of these things right lately, but it's still possible. That's my take. What's your take? I'd love to get your feedback. Again, on Twitter, it's LennyMcAllister. You know where to find me on Facebook. Two walls, same guy, same conversation, and the same love for all of you all out there. You enjoy your weekend. I'm looking forward to talking to you on Monday. Thank you once again for joining me. In the meanwhile, I'll catch up to you soon. TCNGB means take care and God bless.